Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're very glad you could join us today for this important conversation. My name is Halima Songu, and I am the Communications and Marketing Manager here at Kuja. And I'm going to just give you a brief overview of Kuja before I introduce the topic that we'll be delving into today and our moderator, who will then introduce our speakers. So Kuja is an African social enterprise that is powered by African Development Solutions, which is founded by Degan Ali. And here at Kuja, we believe in a world where communities have the autonomy to create their own future. And so through Kuja, we are providing solutions to overcome barriers to the various visions that these local organizations have. Kuja was launched just recently, February 2025, on the 27th of February 2025. And we launched so that we could equip organizations and individuals to enhance the direct impact they have on the communities they serve, as well as amplify, their change efforts, equipping them with the necessary tools to do that. Kuja is a term from the Swahili language, which means to come. And so using this platform, we are inviting individuals, communities, organizations to come learn, to come grow, and to work together. So by creating this unique online platform and communities for actors within the global aid and development sector, we're offering a space where individuals can grow and connect. Through this platform, we have 4 practical solutions to ensure that direct access to funding is achieved. And so the first one is Kuja Link, where we're able to link organizations to funding. And how we do this is we match these local organizations with best fit funding opportunities, and we help them simplify the proposal development process that they usually go through. We also have Kuja Build, which through this platform, we're building organizations' operational capacity. And how we are doing this is by providing the back office support that most of these local organizations do not have. So how we're doing this is using Kuja Build to fill these operational and administrative gaps to enable organizations to meet, donor compliance requirements. Thirdly, we have Kuja Learn, where we are using this platform to create communities for change by making learning opportunities accessible to everyone through online skill building, mindset changing, and action. So how we're doing this is hosting events, cohorts, webinars such as this, and creating connections across invisible boundaries. And then lastly, we have Kuja Advice, which is basically a tool that simplifies the growth and change process by creating a marketplace for pro bono expertise and peer-to-peer idea sharing and advice. So that's basically Kuja in a nutshell. And I will be putting the link to our website on this chat as we continue to converse. So as I mentioned at Kuja, we're building a vibrant and visible community of local organizations across the Global South. And this particular webinar is part of how we are bringing our mission to life. So today's topic is funding on our own terms, rethinking donor-recipient relationships for sustainable impact. And this is deeply aligned with our commitment to amplifying local voices, decolonizing aid, as well as shifting power. And so this conversation matters because it not only sheds light on key issues affecting our communities, but it also helps shape how we support and connect with each other through knowledge and solidarity. So before we begin this interesting and engaging session, I would just like to give a quick couple of notes. First, I would really appreciate if each of us could introduce ourselves in the chat. So tell us who you are, where you're joining from, what work you do, and if you have any questions during this presentation, please use the Q&A section to send out your questions, and we will be answering them at the end of this particular session. Secondly, if you'd like to follow this particular webinar in any other language apart from English, we are now using exciting AI technology, which is powered by BoostLingo, who are on this call, to provide us with interpretation services. And I will allow the BoostLingo representative to give instructions on how this will be done. And then after that, I will introduce the moderator of this particular session, who will then carry on the conversation. So Pedro, you can go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Before sharing the details, can you just please help me to add me to the chat and to help me also to give me the authorization to share my screen, please, just briefly, before I can continue. Just also to share with you the links and the QR code that I'm gonna be. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I'll be with you in a moment. Thank you so much. And I'm now back. Okay, excellent. Well, I'm gonna be writing first the link. I'm gonna be sharing with you the link into the chat panel, and I'm gonna be also explaining you how it's gonna be working, the interpretation feature. Just on it. One moment, please. Okay, there it is. Perfect. Okay, thank you very much, team, for letting me in into or also to share these instructions with you. Um, let me introduce myself once again. My name is Pedro Prendes, and I'm part of the technical support of Boost Lingo events. And just our panelists just mentioned, we have interpretation, simultaneous interpretation available, provided by AI, that you can access with it if you can or access into the link that I just shared with you into the chat, or also you can scan the QR code that is being shown right now into your screen. You can pick up your smart devices like a tablet or your smartphone. You can scan the QR code, and you will be redirected to a listener page, which is going to be working like an audio receiver. So once you access to the audio receiver panel, you can be able to select to click where it says floor, and you can be able to select another language, just like English, Spanish, or French, depending on the language that you choose. So once you choose the language that you want to be following, you can also click on a speaker, and also you can click on a captions mode button that will be showing you that will be not just hearing you it's sorry, it will not just providing you the interpretation feature to you. It's going to be also helping you to guiding or to providing you the current transcription of the session. So in case if you want to follow the full conference into the language that you just selected and you active the features just as I'm going to be showing you right now, then I'm going to be sharing my screen back. Okay, here it is. So this is the panel that you're going to be accessing once you click on the once you scan the QR code, or you click on the link that I share in advance with you. You can just feel free to click these icons, the speaker and the captions. Be sure that both buttons need to be on blue. That'll be indicating you that the features it's activated, just like this. So please be sure that the speaker and the captions are both in blue, so you can follow the interpretation and the captions as well. And also, you can have the floor option, which is basically the list of languages. So you can click where it says floor, and you can feel free to select French, English, or Spanish, depending on the language that you want to follow. And also, last but not least, we got the question mark, which is basically a chat channel for the for the technical support at post-lingual events. So in case if you have any questions or you have any difficulties to follow the interpretation features, you can just click on the question mark, and I'll be happy to helping you or guiding you during the whole session, as much as is taking the floor right now in this session. So in case if you had any problems, any difficulties, you can get in touch with us in the question mark. So that's everything from my end. Thank you very much for giving me the floor once again, and I'll give back the floor to you, and I'll be happy to supporting you during the whole session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pedro. Thank you for that extensive explanation. And now I'd like to move forward and introduce Marie-Rose, who will be moderating today's conversation. She's the president of Romain Murphy Consulting, a management and strategy firm that is working with small to very large local, national, and international nonprofit organizations as a partner for community change. So Marie-Rose, welcome.
Thank you very much, Halima. I am pleased to be here, and thank you everyone for joining. This is, as Halima said, a very critical conversation, especially nowadays. So just to give you a little bit of context, in 2016, the concept and the term of shift the power was born at the Global Summit for Community Foundations, which was held in South Africa. It was clear to Global South organizations that were present that power had not shifted yet, and that it needed to move from Global North donors, organizations, and institutions to Global South, and some like to call it global majority organizations and communities. Over the past 9 years, shift the power has been used as a rallying cry, as a term that means achieving equality and justice in the 8 sectors context. It's been used extensively. Some say that it has become a buzzword. Do we need a reality check? The shift towards locally led development requires fundamental rethink of traditional donor-recipient relationship. Despite global conversations around shift the power, many local organizations still operate under restrictive funding models that limit their ability to lead sustainable community-driven change. That's the reality. That's the current reality. And it has gotten worse recently as donors have been shifting away from global cooperation. So today, it's a pleasure and an honor to welcome the Zambian Governance Foundation. The Zambian Governance Foundation has been at the forefront of advocating for community-led development and alternative financing models that prioritize sustainability and self-reliance. Let me please welcome, and with warm thanks, Ngwase Banda Mwale, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Zambian Governance Foundation, and Rachel Mwela, who's the Manager for Community-Led Development and CSO Support Manager for this right now. Could people keep their audio on mute? But at any rate, Madame Ngwase, it's a pleasure to welcome you. At first, what we'd love to do just to set up the stage and so that people can learn more is, could you tell us a little bit about your organization and its approach, its vision, and what it does?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marie-Rose, for that rich introduction. Grateful for the Kuja team having brought us together to discuss this very important subject, especially at this point in time in the lives of development support. So
Madam Angwase, she seems to have been stopped here and frozen. Let's see. Should we are experiencing as some difficulties here. Rachel, can you unmute, please?
Yes, Mary Rose.
Okay, let's see. Do we have Madame Angwase back?
I think yes.
It looks
they're
like
trying
it.
to, yes, they're trying to get her back now.
Okay, it looks like she. Are you back, Madame Angwase? Okay, perhaps what we can do as a plan B, because we have, let's see. We have.
Okay. Are you able to hear
Are you
me?
able to? Okay, let me stop sharing here because I was going to ask Rachel to share your presentation. You seem to be having technical difficulties.
Okay, so do you want me to share?
Are you able to do with your internet connection?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because hold on a minute. Let me see. Yes, okay, you've started sharing. Fantastic.
Okay, so can you hear me now? All right, so if I'm audible enough, I'm about to introduce the journey that ZGF has been on. And I must state that from the beginning, the journey for ZGF has been quite unique. And we say it's been unique because by and large, sorry. Okay. Okay, so can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I was simply saying, let me try and just speed up on this. Our journey since 2009, by and large, is actually mirroring the broader shift, the power webinar that we are having today. And that is the reason why it was felt so importantly that we need to begin to get on this journey of interrogating what we mean by shifting power and what does it mean to us as an organization, the Zambia Governance Foundation. So having been established to promote proper policy influence and development in Zambia, we did much of our work between 2000 and 2016 in terms of supporting civil society organizations, building their capacities, but also ensuring that they were able to do and participate in the policy influences. But like you said, from the early on, our focus was mainly around providing grants, to civil society organizations. And beyond providing grants, our role was to ensure that we connect civil society mandate with the government in terms of influencing government policy at national level, but also improving the social well-being of communities. We were working through civil society organizations for them to be able to work with the communities. But in our then was rooted in the fact that citizens do have the right to participating meaningfully of ensuring that the development agenda, they do have their voice at the agency. So that is what primarily informed the work that we're doing between 2009 and now 2016. Like you rightly mentioned, Marie Rose, that from 2016 onwards, then the shifting the power ethos came on board. And we looked at that as an organization and felt that there were a lot of questions that we needed to ask ourselves with the way that we were working with civil society organizations, but also most importantly, how we could be able to get communities to take center stage within the development process. So in 2017, we reached an important turning point as an organization. So we asked ourselves to say, what if the aid architecture all of a sudden changed? So how is it measured if we are depending on external support for our development work? We also ask our questions, who is in control of the development aid at each point in time as we continue to support civil society organizations? And what if, as an institution ourselves, if we could do much more to support the project using locally contributed resources, locally contributed time and expertise, how would that look? These are the questions that we're going through our organization when we took on board philanthropy as one of the main pillars for the organization. And we did this deliberately to redefine our role, as a facilitator rather than as a grant maker, but also most importantly, how we were able to look at promoting community philanthropy, to be able to ensure that communities take a center stage in also deciding and designing their own development projects. So I think this also came about with a kind of revolved mandate for ZGF. And that's called for a shifting in thinking. And we say that if the aid structure, was holding back on some of the projects and programs that we were conducting as an organization, first and foremost, we actually challenged ourselves that there was need to take on a revolutionary mindset, for transformation. And this was not just for us as an organization, but we also wanted to, to continue the journey with civil society organizations and communities by having that transformed mindset. But secondly, the questions led us to say, how do we promote community philanthropy approach? And this is what also informed the way we do things. Our community-led model took us to be able to work more and better with the communities in terms of implementing what we are calling the asset-based community development approach. And using this approach, we've been able to reach far and wide because we did recognize that CGF is not operating as an island. Even as we are promoting community-led development, it's important that we remain connected, both at national level and within the local level in our communities. So we've been able to make a lot of connections, more than 400 civil society connections, 163 plus organizations that we have supported along the way, but most importantly, also active in alliances and coalition where we are a member. So why this conversation, for example, if you may ask, Marie-Rose, we are saying that we are talking about shifting the way that we build our community mindset, where communities operate. We also first need to realize that there is need to move from external to local. And that is where our community-led development approach became quite an important aspect for the organization. And we began to look for interventions that were actually promoting community voice, community agency, but also most importantly, how communities sustain the development work that was happening. We moved our communities to look at themselves not as beneficiaries, but as important champions of change. And that pushed us to look at the community foundation model. And the community foundation model was actually looking at how do communities form their own structure, led by themselves, making their own decisions and determining their own priorities for the development program that they want to see. So this really pushed us to be able to invest a lot of time and energy in building and strengthening communities. And that is one of our strong pillars of strengthening community organization. But also the second issue, why this conversation? Because if we talk about shifting power, you talk about support at our own terms. We're talking about the whole wording of building trust. So we're saying, how do we work alongside the communities? Because we did recognize that the communities are not beneficiaries, but they are equal champions of change within their spaces. And therefore, we needed to build relationships. We needed to build trust. We needed to build ownership in terms of getting our communities to be convinced that any change, any transformation requires their active participation. So that is the reason why having this conversation to say, how do we move from a traditional way of donor beneficiary relationship to actually a partnership relationship where trust, prevails. And also the third point that we had at the back of our minds as we were designing this conversation is that how do we do a rethinking about everything? Moving from, like communities that are waiting to be helped, but move to a level where communities take a center stage and begin to design that which they would want to see. So it's about promoting community aspirations, promoting community involvement by ensuring that their capacities are built, but also that their terms, in terms of their own priorities, are the ones that should really inform the development agenda, such that any development partners that are coming to being, that are coming to work with ourselves and our partners should really be coming to support those priorities and aspirations that are driven by communities. So maybe on the Shifting the Power program, I just want to mention 3 things before my colleague comes in. I think when we talk about shifting the power, first and foremost, we talk about grassroots leadership. And of course, if we talk about grassroots leadership, it is about communities being able to come up with their own priorities. So that is the second one, to say, how do we ensure that local priorities are identified and they are prioritized for any development work that comes to be. But also thirdly, it is about being alive and aware of the practical insights right within the local communities. Because on many occasions, I think we do tend to disregard indigenous knowledge, indigenous expertise, but also that communities are in themselves an asset when they look at the different aspects that they do have in that community. So these 3 principles underpin the Shifting the Power program that we are currently implementing with the support of the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office of the UK government, as well as the Comic Relief. So I'll let Rachel maybe speak more about the Shifting the Power program, what our aspirations are as an organization, but also how we are living out the manifesto for change in this Shifting the Power program that we are implementing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Ngwase. I think you have said it all in terms of communities needing to be leading their own development and the focus needing to be the local priorities, as opposed to having people coming from the outside and really dictating what the development of these communities need to be. It's very interesting, it just sounds like common sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it is not the way things are done. Like they say, common sense is not so common. Now, thank you for this background. And now, Rachel, I know you're working very closely with the communities in your position. And right now, what we would love to see is, please tell us more about what does it look like working with the communities, alongside the communities. What is it that, or do you see shifting the power? What does it mean to communities?
Thank you, Mary Rose, and thank you, Madam CEO, for that very powerful opening. I feel like we should actually close the webinar right now because, I mean, what more is there to say after that? So I would dive more into how, as ZGF, we are not only talking about shifting power as a principle, but rather about how our work is also, we are trying to reflect how we shift power in everything that we do with the partners. Like the CEO had spoken, we are part of the wider Shift the Power movement, but we are also implementing a Shift the Power program in support with Comic Relief and FCDO. We are part of the 3 anchor partners who are working us in Zambia. We also have partners in Malawi. Tilitonse is implementing that. And there's Star Ghana and Waxi in Ghana. So for ZGF, I think we have come to recognize that there are still barriers in the funding system. And these are barriers that we need to constantly look into, constantly work on, and see how we address some of these aspects to barriers around funding. So we've tried to think around where does the problem start with traditional grant making, because we do believe when it comes to shifting power, it is really about moving the decisions and moving the grant making decisions, moving the resources to the communities and to the CSOs who understand better or are impacted more by the problem than we are, because we are just bystanders watching from the sidelines. So one of the problems with the traditional grant-making system is really around the short-term constraints. Local CSOs are really boxed in a rigid funding cycle that limits sustainable impact. Projects are given, it's about project funding within a very short timeline. You are expected to meet certain criteria, which sometimes is very rigid, not even sometimes, most of the times is very rigid for local CSOs and local communities to meet. And then of course, your work is focused on just the particular project, meeting the numbers, because the donor wants the numbers at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter whether or not the organization is growing or thinking about its sustainability. You need to meet the numbers for the donor because that is what their support is all about. Then of course, it's a donor-driven agenda. The donor is gonna say our money is for education. Whether or not your problem is health, that's your business. The money that's coming in is coming in for education. These things are stipulated. The agenda is already set. You get the money, you implement, or you say no because that is not your priority. And of course, the other problem is around the administrative burden. More time is spent reporting than reflecting and improving on the program. So because our target is we need to meet the numbers because the donor has said they want this. It's about the education. They want this number of children supported. We are not taking a moment to say, okay, are we actually doing the right thing? Are we actually responding to the needs that we have as a CSO or as a community? That really doesn't matter in the traditional funding system. You need to do what the agenda says you need to do. And then, of course, there's the limited decision making. You are not involved in the decisions that are made. Even as this money is coming to you, it's already pre-described what the money needs to do. You need to work with the money and not the money working for you. So the decision making is not up to you. You receive whatever you receive and you use it according to the way it's been decided that the money needs to be used. But at ZGF and in the bigger Shift the Power movement, it's been recognized that that is not the way to do development. Because while you are sitting somewhere in a boardroom, there are actual people who are having actual problems, who understand their problems way better than you do from the boardroom. So in Shifting Power, we've recognized that there's a different way that we need to do things. And it's not even just about just saying, because when you say shifting power, it really sounds nice on the tongue, shifting power. But it's really about putting what we are saying into practice. This has meant, as ZGF, we believe the local knowledge, this knowledge is so rich. When you sit down with local people and listen to them talk about their communities, how things were, what their aspirations are for the communities, it is really so enriching and it is really so encouraging. So we believe communities understand their challenges better than anyone else, because you would have gone there with a certain mindset, but after you have these conversations, you're just like, oh, I didn't know anything. Now I know better. So we at ZGF, we believe the communities have the knowledge. Then of course, we need to create an enabling system. Our role is not to go and say, do this, do that. Our role is to say, what do you want to do? How do we create a system for you that will work for you? The system is not to work for us, it's to work for them. And then of course, the communities, these are their communities, they're not ours. Me, I go there, I spend 2 hours. That doesn't become my communities. People live in these places. People have to work with these local organizations. So it has to be up to them in terms of how they come up with the solutions and also leading in terms of how you solve those solutions. It's not up to you who is an outsider, who is just looking in. So we at ZGF have really come to believe if communities, if local CSOs take up the leadership, change is bound to happen, rather than if it's being injected from the outside. So how is ZGF uniquely positioned to do this? So the interesting bit is when it comes to the partners that we are supporting, they will look at us as a grantor because, I mean, we will give grants, we will give the capacity support. But when we look at the partners who support our work, for instance, like FCDO and Comic Relief under this Shift the Power program, we are a grantee. We are also receiving a grant. So we are sitting in a place where we understand the grantee relationship, but we also understand the grantor relationship. And all those situations, they have a power dynamic to them. There's a power dynamic between us and the people who fund us. There's a power dynamic between us and the people we fund. And those are power dynamics that need to be recognized so that then we're able to say, how do we forge a way forward, even given these dynamics? Also, we're a bridge builder. Because of where we sit, we understand both the giver and the receiver. So we are able to connect the local priorities to the funding sources. Because we understand what the local priorities are, we are able to bring them to the table of the funding sources and say, these are what the local priorities are, and these are what communities want to work on. And those are not made by us when we sit in the boardroom. We go back to the communities and we say, what is going on here? What are your issues? How can we come in to help? What sort of help should we seek? Because we know we stand at I would say an advantage of the communities because we have all this access to all these networks and spaces where we can advocate for their issues. Then, of course, we're a system innovator. We are redesigning the funding system. Like this program, everything that we've been doing around this program has been, when you're thinking of doing something, you say, is this shifting power? Who's holding the most power in this case? Is it us? Is it the communities? Is it the CSOs? And then, of course, we're a trust creator. I really hope the CSOs we're working with and the communities are going like, yes, 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 we trust ZGF. But I think looking at the long-standing relationships that we've been able to have with the partners, we can safely say we've built trusts around the funding models that we are giving. So, and we are hoping that as we facilitate this, communities have confidence in us. And it's not just around the money, but in us being able to create certain spaces for them to be able to better handle their different situations on the ground. How do we, when it comes to the Shift the Power program, we've been able to do this through 3 funding schemes that the program has been able to offer. So we have the Catalyst Fund scheme. This was basically, by its name, it's a Catalyst Fund. We implemented this last year, and it was really just meant to catalyze or help emerging organizations be able to think outside their setting, because we got to work with organizations that were not even registered, organizations that were doing work in their little corner of the world. And when we started to work with these organizations, we realized that the work that they are doing is so great and it needs to be out there. But then we said, okay, why are you not out there? And it was, no, we don't even know how are we supposed to talk to the government officials? They don't listen to us. No, but the traditional leaders support us, but not so much. So we just do the best that we can. And so we stepped in and said, okay, if we are able to facilitate platforms for you to talk to your government officials, would you be able to do that? And they said, yes, of course, we'll be able to do that. And well, okay, let's set up a meeting. You say you don't have the resources to facilitate these meetings. ZGF will cover those resources, but you should be able to talk to be the ones to talk to your leaders, because they are your leaders, they are not ours. And we saw this space where this group that was just quiet somewhere in the world, there they are before their local leaders, before their DCs, before their different ministries, and they're able to talk about the different kind of things that they're doing. And the local leaders are going like, where have you been? Because one actually went like, we actually had a situation last time and we didn't know where we needed to refer this person. And yet there you were somewhere sitting and hiding yourselves. So, you know, it's such interactions then that give you the like, oh, how wonderful that we've been able to create these interactions with these very nascent small groups. The Catalyst Fund ended last year, but for us, it was a starting fund that we can actually build voices from there. The next level funding is on the Civil Society Strengthening Fund. So for this fund, we were more of saying, okay, you've started something, but now we need you to start thinking about yourself. We need you to start thinking about becoming resilient, becoming sustainable. How do we help you become that? Because also with this fund, we recognize that, like I said earlier, most funding is around project. It's very project-based. It's that it needs to do this and do that. But with the Civil Society Strengthening Fund, we are saying organizations need to exist so that projects can be done. So does it make a difference if you invest in an organization's growth rather than investing directly in its projects? And that is what this fund is actually trying to challenge, because this fund is focused on investing in the institutional growth of an organization. That organizations should become resilient, that organizations should be able to have room to do their resource mobilization, that they should be thinking sustainability as an organization and not just thinking of just doing work from one project to the next project. And currently we are in this funding scheme. Currently we have 11 partners that we are working with under this funding scheme, but we are also in the process of identifying more partners under this. So with this funding scheme, if you came from the Catalyst Fund, we brought you out. You were hiding somewhere. We've helped to put you out there. But we are saying that's not it. We want, when we step away, you should be able to remain out there. Because also it's that most of this funding, especially for project funding, once a project ends, the organization goes back to whatever it was before the project came to life. But we want to say, when we are not there, you should be able to still continue, because that's what you were made for. That's what your mandate is. You should be able to still continue providing those services that you're providing to the different communities that you are working with. So with the Civil Society Strengthening Fund, we are really saying we need to clarify our identity. It's not us as ZGF, but it's you as the partner. Who are you in this space where you are? Do you know? Do we need to help you understand and clarify that so that you are very clear about who you are? We are also saying, do you have the kind of governance systems or governance structures that are able to ensure resilience for this particular organization? If not, how can we help you put those in place? Of course, what kind of systems do you need that reflect who you are as an organization? So it's not really about the funding that you are receiving, but can we go back and think internally? What do we need as an organization to be able to be out there and stay? So it's not just being out there for the meantime, but being out there and staying there. Then, of course, with our support, we are hoping that the funding is able to support things around strategic planning, because what is your vision as an organization? Or are you just existing for the now? And of course, we're looking at what kind of policies support your organization. Do you have the necessary, there are certain necessary things that an organization needs that are able to even actually make it attractive for funding, that are able to ensure its sustainability. And then of course, boards, it's an important thing for the local organizations because there needs to be certain bodies. You might not call it a board, you might call it a committee, but somebody has to be able to provide oversight over what you are doing as an organization. And also it helps you in terms of being rooted in your vision, but also being rooted to the constituencies that you are able to serve as an organization. So we are looking at all these priorities and how we can help organizations be able to meet this and ensure that they are able to remain sustainable, to remain relevant in the different spaces that they are working in. Of course, then we have the Community Resource Matching Fund. And basically this one, it's a flip because this one we are saying you are actually not poor. We are saying you have money. We recognize you have the resources. I have been in communities where the first time we went and they told us what their problem was. There was one community where they said, we have a challenge with water. And we said, okay, so what do you want to do about it? Then they said, we need to have a borehole drilled. Then we said, okay, so what do you have so far towards the drilling of the borehole? And they said, no, as we are very poor, we don't have anything. We just live here suffering. It was sad as it was almost funny. So then we said, okay, you feel you are poor, but we think you are not poor. So let's work out something. Let's work out a plan on how we get you a borehole. What do you have? Do you have bricklayers in this community? Oh, yes, we have bricklayers. Oh, okay, great. If you were to do this borehole, where is it gonna be? No, the headman says he can give us the land where to put the borehole. Oh, okay. If then you are to do this, those people will have to be working. What happens to their food? Oh no, the communities will be bringing mealie meal, will be cooking them shima and whatnot. At the end of that process, we're able to say, you said you were poor. So did you see all these things you've been able to bring to the table? And we haven't even said anything that we brought. We've just asked you questions and you've been able to respond, giving out all these correct things of what you have well within yourselves. And this is something that everywhere you go, you recognize that communities have their resources and you need to respect those resources. There might not be as much money as you can get from where, but the very fact that they have a builder who's able to come and work on a project without looking to be paid is a very big resource. Women come and are cooking food so that the men who are working are able to be fed. They are fetching water. They are bringing sand. If they're doing the local bricks, they're molding local bricks. That is such an expensive resource that money can't buy. And these are things that we need to recognize. So with the Community Resource Match Fund, we said, okay, let's flip the script. If you raise money and I match it, how much could you raise? And then we see if we have communities who say they are poor. Because, I mean, if the communities aim high, they'll be able to raise, I don't know how much, but because, and there's that motivation that whatever is raised, we are gonna match it to you because we recognize that you would have put in so much time, so much effort to get this done. And that is why we are bringing something that matches your effort. And then together, let's see what this money is going to be. So we are looking at, for this one, we want to look at resource mobilization, matching community contributions, whether it's cash, labor, land, because those are community resources. Land is not a cheap thing. Even right now, looking to buy land in Zambia is very expensive. So when you go to a community and they're able to say, we'll set up our project on this land, the head persons, the traditional leaders come together and dedicate a piece of land for the community development. That is a really big thing. We're also looking to see community leadership. How will the community support initiatives defined and led by the local residents? It's not us. When we go, we are not saying we are bringing you a borehole. We are saying, what do you need? What is your problem? Then how do we work with you to make sure that we get a solution to that problem? And of course, we want to look at, it's also about changing the narratives. We are not beneficiaries. We are philanthropists, because you are not the only one bringing us money. We are also bringing our own resources to the table. So
Rachel,
yes,
Rachel.
yes, Mary-Rose.
Time is running
Oh
short.
my God.
I love your presentation, and I love the fact that you're passionate about all of this. I know there is one question, but can we speed it up? Because I think everybody's loving it. There's a lot in the chat, but yes.
Okay, but I think just to mention, in summary, we are doing all this through a participatory grant making process. So we are not just sitting in our space and deciding what to do, but we are going to the communities, we are going to the local CSOs and saying, let's do this together. It's grant making together. It's not grant making for the partners. No. We are engaging things like a peer review where community members are able to access proposals from other communities, because they know each other better than we do. And of course, there's the collaborative decision making, finding choices made through inclusive dialogue. We are sitting down all together. We are all equals. Let's reason together around what we want to do. And of course, there's the community defined criteria. So it's not up to us in terms of what are the values and priorities of what we want to do, but it's things that we need to agree upon. What are we going to say is success for this work that we are doing? Together, we need to agree upon that, because my vision of success might be different from a local community's vision of success. So we need to be able to be in agreement around what does this mean for us when we do this? And of course, there's the shared learning. Like I said, when I sit in some of these meetings, I'm old. I'm just like, oh, wow, what did I think I knew? Because now I know better, I know more, and you are living very enriched, and they are also appreciating because you have also taken your knowledge to them, and they are also living enriched. So it's that through this shift in the power, in practice, the work that we are doing is really bringing everybody on board. Can we do this together rather than doing it in the separate spaces? Because we've realized that has not worked. If I bring my agenda to you, if I run out of money halfway through the project, that project will never finish, because the community says it's not ours, it's Rachel's project, she's the one who brought it. But when I come and say, what can we do together? Even if I leave, they'll be able to say, we've invested time and money in this, it's ours, we need to take care of it, we need to be able to finish it. So it's really, for us, shifting power has been about shifting how we do things, shifting how we make decisions, shifting what we view as resources. It's really, let's work together. Whether you're a local community, whether you're a local CSO, how can we all come together and start doing development differently? Because it is actually possible. So I'm going to end there, because I can tell you stories until the end of the day. Thank you so much, Mary-Rose.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I mean, it's obvious that you're completely invested, and I have to say, I hated having to interrupt you. But time's coming to a close, and I know we have at least like one question. One thing that I want to say, though, is that it's becoming obvious to me why there is a need for more than one webinar. Because Madame Ngwase and Rachel have talked about the organization and the work and the concept of shifting the power. There is more, because they have talked about all they are innovators, and there is a new process that they have started, which is definitely talking about turning things upside down, where it's like it's the reverse proposal. The communities talks about their needs and, at this point, invite donors. So right now, because we are coming to an end, we're going to have to talk about this at another one, where we not only talk about the reverse call for proposal that Madame Ngwase is talking about, will be talking about, and also what it means, what shift the power means for communities, what this process means to all of a sudden be the one leading their development, while donors and funders are listening and talking to them and asking questions and engaging them, as opposed to the other way around. Let us see right now. we have 2 minutes left. All I can say is that please, I mean, I believe that Fatima has put in Kuja's information. Connect with us. We will be having a second webinar to discuss all of this and to hear from the communities what it means to them all of a sudden to be working with a group together, and also to all of a sudden lose these preconceived ideas, because so often development is approached, like in global South countries, from a deficit-based approach. And like, you know, Rachel talked about, no. Let's redefine poverty. Let's redefine assets. You're bringing land, you're bringing food, you're bringing ideas, you're bringing knowledge. This is all resources. This is the wealth of community. So at any rate, we will be talking about the next one and announcing the next, because all of us need to talk about and learn about the reverse proposal and hear the stories, more stories about how it goes and what it does in terms of shifting the power, not just empowering communities, but shifting the power where communities are more in control. I'm going to turn it over to Halima. Halima, please. Thank you very much, Madam Anguase, Rachel, for your wonderful presentations. Halima, over to you.
So much. Thank you so much for being with us today, everyone who's on this particular call. And a huge thank you to our speakers of the day. This was interesting, encouraging, amazing. To our participants, we really hope that today's conversation sparked some new ideas. I was seeing the comments and I was seeing the questions. And I hope we've inspired you or made you feel more connected to others doing important work across our global South. So just a little reminder that Kuja is an online platform and a community that amplifies the work of local organizations, and we connect them with a global audience. So by joining the Kuja family, you'll be able to gain visibility, resources such as this one, and opportunities to engage in rich global conversations. So we've got our next webinar, which is scheduled for the 3rd of June at 6 p.m. East African time. And we'll be discussing diversifying funds and mobilizing communities for justice and progress, using a Colombian organization as an example. So finally, we're always open to questions, feedback, or ideas for partnerships, especially if you're interested in hosting a future webinar with us or collaborating with Kuja as a whole in any other way. Just reach out to us. We'd love to connect. Shoot us an email at info@kuja.org. My colleague will write that information on the chat, and so you can have a look at it and reach out to us for anything or any feedback or any questions that you have, or if you would love to work together, or if you would love to join the Kuja platform and become part of our growing community. With that said, thank you so much again, and hoping to see you in our next webinar. Do have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're listening to us from.